This week in comic books, we get gimmicky glow-in-the-dark covers from DC, we get some Marvel nonsense, and the resurrection of a comic book that probably didn't need to happen. But we do have some good stuff too, so let's jump into a bumper and right into it. Here we go. All right, you wonderful weirdos. I'm excited about this week's comic books. We got a lot of cool stuff out there. Maybe some first appearances, maybe some references to older stories. So let's kick this off with All Weather. And this is issue number 4. So what happened in here? So Slade and Prince Batman, or Bruce, who has the powers of Superman, they work their way. It's a journey story, and they're working their way to the main character. But what was great about this story is that they kind of gave us a why this all-winter world exists. And it's actually a curse from a broken-hearted person from some characters you may know. I thought that was interesting. But again, with winter and darkness all the time, Prince Bruce Wayne, Batman, Superman mixture can only last so long because he needs sunlight. And in this one, he gets mortally wounded, and they have to leave him where he's at to continue on with the story. Also, Slade Wilson's kids got a serious problem with him, and they really want him dead. Did they kill him throwing him down the mountain ravine? Well, that would be an ending of a very, very tragic story. So I'm assuming we're going to carry on with this one as we try to figure out bringing the green back to the world, or Swamp Thing's deal. So that was pretty interesting. Next up on the list for gimmicky covers this week, I have to give it to Batman Full Moon. So this is the glow-in-the-dark cover. They even did a protection thing. This was actually kind of smart, protecting the cover. Gimmicky as a glow-in-the-dark cover is, I thought that was pretty cool, and it does work. I tried it. You know me and glow-in-the-dark stuff. It's a thing. All right? But was the story any good? Yes, otherwise it wouldn't be on this list. So what happens in here is we're basically tearing a werewolf story, and the aspect of it being in Gotham. It's a darker story, very dark story. And of course, Batman's got to fight this thing, and it's not going very well. And we see bits and pieces of other characters from the DC universe. This is more of an Elseworld type of story, right? It's not main continuity. But what makes this story actually beautiful is the fact that it has this heavy, heavy religious undertone to it. Not like, God being your savior, but more man's battle of his vengeful nature or rage nature, right? Because that's the werewolf, right? Keeping the beast inside, right? And it coming out, right? That's kind of the metaphor there. But now that raging beast also having a relationship with a higher power or being in some way. Tons of religious symbolisms, notes, and verbiage in here to kind of help mix all that together. Now, not being an overly religious person, I can still respect this story because it's not preaching to you. You're just looking at a person's perspective and what they have to do in it. And I think that's key when you're reading this book, to think, hey, this isn't about me. It's about this person's filled with rage in some way, shape, or form. They also explain how the curse also works in it as well. The artwork's a little weird for me, though. I'm not terribly on board with the artwork in this. Luckily, I pick these things up more for the stories than I do the artwork. It's Moon Knight that just launched back out. Of course, I had to go with the Scotty Young cover on this one. This is fun, and like most Moon Knight stories, it's really kicking off with a huge bang. We got a new villain in this who sells some of that fairy dust, literally in this case, because it's magical cocaine, I guess. I don't know, that seems a bit much, but all right. Fantastic stories need fantastic devices and MacGuffins, and that's what you're ultimately getting in this. The problem with this is Moon Knight doesn't like this cat selling his stuff on his streets, or what he deems as his streets. Nobody voted for it, he's just doing it. We also get to see the terrible addiction and how people become loyal to the people, their plug, if you will, in these kind of cases, as well as a cop has to make a decision outside of their duty to kind of screw over Moon Knight in this case. I liked this. The fear that I have for this book is that, like most Moon Knight stories, it kicks off really good. And then after that first arc, if they continue on, it tends to kind of slow down and get real muddled as they just start throwing in random characters just for the sake of throwing in characters. I hope they don't do that. Moon Knight always does best on his own. Destro. This is issue 5, and this closes out this arc, which is great. So now we've realized why people like Destro and Xamot, Tomax, and Cobra Commander, what makes these guys kind of sort of work together but not get along, right? We understand that in this now, as the Mars Corporation battled out the Crimson Guard Corporation, and they even fought in this one too, as Destro takes on the twins. I thought that was great, and Cobra Commander, being an opportunist, just kind of sits back and waits and see if these guys can't figure themselves out. As we launch into the Skybound G.I. Joe story, I'm going to say that this book, you get a sneak peek in the back of it about something coming from Cybertron to Earth, which is going to kick off the G.I. Joe series that's going to happen in November. So would I consider this a key book for the reader out there? Absolutely. Positively. For comic book collectors that are just about, having it and flipping it or whatever else, probably not. But if you're excited about G.I. Joe coming, you may want to back up a little bit, check this Destro story out. I don't know. I don't think anything else G.I. Joe is going to be coming out anytime soon until the big launch. So get caught up in these individual stories. I think you'll enjoy them. Epitaphs of the Abyss. This one was fun. It's a little anthology. You get 3 short stories in here, and they're great. I mean, you're talking about changing yourself as far as a marriage goes, right? When 2 people get married, you shouldn't have to change everything about you. Heartwarming story in here about that. Well, not heartwarming. Tragically warm. You're just going to have to read it. It's called Pearls. But it was interesting. It was an interesting take. And another one about cryptids, about how somebody can hoax a cryptid, but why are they hoaxing a cryptic type story for YouTubers to go out? See, I'll be honest with you. Most influencers, it's very easy to lead them into traps. And in this particular one, that trap turns into a bunch of cannibals. Bruh. Right, that was really great. And just an all-around good story. Jupiter's Legacy. Now, if you haven't watched the Netflix series on it, I thought it did a fantastic job kind of summing up what it was. It was a shame that it did not get picked back up, because I thought it was good enough to warrant a second season. I would say so. Most than anything else that Netflix keeps shoving down our throat. But this kind of picks up moments after Jupiter's Legacy, the original, ended. So if you're not familiar with that story and what's going on in it, this book's not going to make any sense to you, right? So there are plenty of YouTubers that have done short reviews and telling the story of Jupiter's Legacy and how it worked and everything. But if you are a Jupiter's Legacy fan out there and you read that series, you're not going to skip a beat. You're going to jump right into this. Basic information: 3 planets are going at war. Earth, everybody wants Earth because Earth, number 1. Right? And then these other 2 worlds have been kind of going back and forth at it for a while now. Our Jupiter Legacy main character is not with us right now. Is he dead? Is he gone forever? The last book volume arc made you think so, but that may change once you recognize a symbol that was carved into an entire planet. I thought that was pretty interesting. So kicking it right off, let's go ahead and talk about what Marvel did this week. We got Crypt of Shadows. So Agatha Harkness is our host in this. Think of the way we've seen this before, Crypt Keeper, Elvira inside of comic books, where they just kind of host up the stories for you. You're going to get 3 stories in here. One that was absolutely ridiculous and just kind of just jumped to an ending with no real walking us through the story was one with Scarlet Witch. And I was just like, man, there's so much more that could have happened there. These were 3, let me strange interlude real quick. These were 3 stories that shouldn't have been 3 stories. I should say that. Maybe they're previews for longer ones. I don't know. But as they were fed to me, as I read them and paid for them, this is what I got from them. The next one is a little Prince Namor and Man-Thing, right? The creature of the swamp and the Prince of the Seas. And it talked about mutation and, it's outside of some swamps, especially down in the Louisiana area. A lot of that salt water. So that means that's Namor's kind of playground as well as Swamp Thing at the same time. And there was a weird mutation. They were going to fight because that's the trope, right? But then they didn't for reasons. Remember, Man-Thing can't talk, so they didn't reason it out. I don't know. It was a mess. And then the last one was, it was so eventful, I forgot. I got to look at it. Oh, yeah, it was Kraven. Actually, this one was actually all right. It had to do with Kraven the Hunter. And it was okay as far as hunting down. There were some zombies in it, things along those lines. But all in all, again, you didn't really get enough of the story to even really, dive into this in any way. So, completely shallow reading. Just something to throw away, really. Again, my hope is that these stories will come back in a full format and we can review them again and give them the due justice that they need. Next, we get Wolverine number 2. So yeah, I was debating on this one. First, I didn't want to throw it into the bad list. I tried to do everything I could to keep it in the good list because we get a character coming back named Wendigo, whatever. A beast. All right, and it kind of explained the whole lore behind it. If you don't know, the first appearance of Wolverine kind of happened in Hulk 180 or 181, however you want to make that argument. And that's who Hulk and Wolverine were battling. But we didn't get that Wendigo. We got this new one. And this new one, it's basically a werewolf story. Somebody got cursed because they decided to partake in cannibalism. But they're really not a bad person. They just had a very bad decision that they had to make. And because of that, can they control the rage? Yada, 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 back and forth, right? It just seemed so blasé, the storytelling of it, that if we're to believe that this is the lore, and we go back to anybody that read comic books or understands the character, right? You're like, that's not how it works. They're just a mindless beast. But in this one, there is some empathy and sorrow for what the character did. But they still can't control themselves. I don't know. This kind of back and forth thing with it just seemed kind of weird to me. I just was not jiving with it. Where Monsters Lie. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what this comic book is about. Apparently some people that have the capability of doing horrible things are all kind of thrust together because there may be a Suicide Squad type mission going on. I don't know. Not much action in this. Dialogue that didn't need to happen. Just over explanation of some of the most basic stuff ever, and the things that you want to know more about, it got passed over in a panel or two. And it just really, really missed for me. I think it wasn't a bad idea for a story. It just seemed like it wasn't very storyboard correctly. They didn't really pace it out very well. And not a fan of this particular artwork in this either. The characters don't make any sense together. I don't know. It was just a mess. It looked like it was just kind of a phoned in kind of thing or a conversation, and an artist just happened to be sitting there and they made a comic book real quick. I don't know what they were thinking with this. Godfather of Hell. This had potential. It had so much potential, and it threw you off right there at the end. Mobster guy, right, kills a made man. That's not going to swing with the mob boss. Mob boss gets him gunned down. He goes to hell. First, it was this kind of cool depiction of him being the way he was being treated in hell. But he's such a stone cold gangster, right, that he beat up a demon. And this little demon that's been watching him was like, hey, boss, wouldn't he be the guy we want to send back to Earth to kind of punish all these people that sold their soul, but they're trying to get out of the deal, right? One of those type stories. And that's a great concept for a story. So then, this head demon guy that's just under Lucifer is like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's send him back, but let's make him a woman. What? And I'm like, why is Like, I'm not trying to be sexist. If it was a woman to begin with, right? But I don't understand the conflict of making the killer a woman. Like, that didn't make any sense to me. If the killer started off as a woman and worked through and came back as a woman, fine, so be it. I don't get the big gender change in this, why that was the big twist in the story. It just seemed like something just to kind of throw out there, like, hey, we can do the thing that people don't like and have actively turned down on television shows and in comic books here lately. But we're going to do it anyway. And for a title that nobody's heard of before, from some relatively newer teams, I'm just going to tell you that was a bad choice because it really just took you out of the story and made you not care at that point. Just to throw in some random thing like that in a panel. I don't know. It was a mess. So that's my comic book haul and review this week. What did you read? What did I miss? Definitely let me know down below. I'm always on the look for good stories to review. Also, if you're an independent creator out there and you would like for me to review your comic book on here on one of my independent reviews, I'm happy to do it. Just hit me up in the DMs over on Instagram. That's that's Pocan_Joe. I forgot my own Instagram handle. That's amazing. All right, guys, I got nothing else. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.